In real life, affairs are bad. They are capable of destroying homes, damaging relationships, wrecking people's lives. In Emily in Paris, though, affairs seem to exist to teach the characters things about themselves that they otherwise would not have known, noticed, or confronted. Affairs in Emily in Paris are a key learning experience. But before I dive into the core of this video, I would like to state upfront that fiction is not reality. And just because I enjoy watching or exploring certain topics from a show in a video doesn't mean I want that for myself in real life. I know it's crazy that I have to say this, but I have gotten some comments on my previous videos, which thank you, by the way, to everyone who wished me a happy birthday. I did take a break from my birthday week, but I will be responding to yours comments in the next couple of days. And still speaking of some of those comments, I seem to have gotten new subscribers who might not really understand what I aim to do with this channel. In which case, I would like to make it clear that this isn't a drama channel. I am just a girl who plays video games, who reads books, and who watches TV shows and movies and anime and loves to make character study type videos and sometimes thematic essays about the movies and shows and anime and books that I enjoy. If you're not a fan of that, that is okay. But if it is your jam, if you like diving deeper into these characters, sometimes in serious ways, sometimes in silly ways, and definitely different yet interesting ways, then hello, I'm Noria, and welcome to my channel. Let's talk about affairs. Now, I spent the last week not doing an ounce of work. Instead, I played video games. I read a couple of chapters of Jade War by Fonda Lee. Oh, and I also binged the entire seasons of Emily in Paris up until the end of the first half of season 4. Which, by the way, who is giving Netflix this business idea to be splitting their seasons into two? It sucks ass. I hate it. I hate it here. But back to Emily in Paris. Prior to last week, I had never seen a single episode of this show. Netflix kept recommending it to me every time a new season dropped, but I always skipped it when it showed up because I'd associated Emily in Paris with everything that was said about the show when it started airing. That it's a horrible mess, that it has an annoying lead character, and that it is absolutely inauthentic with how it depicts Paris, which are all true. But when you're bored and you have time, you tend to want to shake things up a bit, take a risk, walk on the wild side of life. And next thing you know, it's 3 a.m. the next morning, and you realize you've been watching this one show for the last 12 hours. And maybe it's not as bad as you thought, or maybe it is bad, but it's also entertaining in a way that you just can't look away from. And now it has you thinking about affairs and how they are key learning experiences for these characters. And next thing you know, you have an idea for a YouTube video. Now, I personally am not advocating that people should go and have an affair right now or even ever. What I'm saying though is that Emily in Paris seems to believe that affairs are a necessary part of human existence and growth. And it does so by centering three women in the show who have affairs and who, through those affairs, grow and change in significant, memorable ways. I am, of course, referring to the trio of Emily Cooper, Camille de la Lys, and Sylvie Garteau. And we'll start things off with our titular character, Emily, who moves to Paris for work purposes without learning a word of French. She settles in, stumbles her way through the city of love, keeps running into her hot neighbor Gabrielle, a chef who she's instantly attracted to. But she tables that attraction at first because she has a boyfriend who happens to still be in Chicago. Gabrielle, on the other hand, is also attracted to Emily, and they have this push and pull that we get on screen and that characterizes a lot of Emily's stay in Paris. He is supportive of her, encourages her to try out new things and dishes, to partake in the sensual delights that can be found in a meal that is prepared by a skilled hand. We see her falling for him on screen. And when her boyfriend turns out to be a flaky asshole who decides that he can't do a long distance relationship after all, the audience is all set for Emily to have a grand Parisian romance, and Emily is as well. After Gabrielle helps her save face with her client and comes through as her chef in shining armor, she walks back into the kitchen and kisses Gabrielle like she's been starving. He kisses her back as passionately as she does him, only for her to step out of the kitchen, run into Camille, the new friend she just made in Paris, and be informed that her friend Camille is Gabrielle's girlfriend. It's shocking to Emily and devastating to the audience, as at this point, the show has set us up to like Camille. She's smart and funny and brilliant and authentic and creative and kind. She's literally the first Parisian person that Emily meets in the show who is kind to her. And whilst we, as the audience, have to spend time processing how unfair it is that this wrench is thrown in the works and it is done by a character we actually liked and found ourselves rooting for, Emily has to come to terms with the fact that her new friend's boyfriend is the guy she likes. And you know, this bit with Camille's have me wondering and thinking back on shows that I've watched with characters who cheated on their partners. And I wonder if most viewers notice that affairs in shows and movies seem easier to swallow when the other person in the relationship, i.e., the person being cheated on, is someone the show has set us up to hate or dislike. For example, how Grey's Anatomy had us rooting for Meredith to get with Derek because the show had set us up to not like Addison at her first introduction for being the one who cheated on Derek with Mark. Until, of course, we got to know her better and Addison Montgomery Shepherd turned out to be an absolute badass. And also, she's in this show as well, which I wish someone had told me earlier because I love Kate Walsh. But compare that with, say, Lucas Scott and Peyton Sawyer in One Tree Hill when Lucas was still with Brooke, and how that made us feel off and upset and uncomfortable with the cheating because we liked Brooke Davis. We rooted for and supported her, and we wanted her happy, and Lucas was being a dick. But back to Emily in Paris. Now, the expectation is that Emily would step away from Gabrielle. He has a girlfriend who is also Emily's friend, and Emily at this point has met someone new, the nephew of one of Emily's clients, Matthew Cadeau, who likes her and is uber rich. But alas, she proceeds to engage in an emotional affair with Gabrielle. Camille unwittingly invites her friend out with her boyfriend and occasionally leaves them both alone together to have heart-to-heart talks, enjoy beautiful, stunning art, go shopping together, and culminates in a night of clubbing that has Emily again kissing Gabrielle, who kisses her back. Yes, afterwards she steps away from him, tries to avoid him, but the emotions and feelings are still there. And when Gabrielle and Camille have a fight because he wants to leave Paris for Normandy to set up his own restaurant, and Camille wants him to stay in Paris, the stage is set. On his last night in the city, Emily, hit with the emotions that Gabrielle will soon be gone, runs up to kiss him again, and they have what they both state is the best sex of their lives. Sex so good that Gabrielle decides to stay in Paris, not for the girlfriend who had been begging him to reconsider, but for Emily, who we, the audience, know is utterly in love with. Emily at this point, however, feels guilty about having had sex with her friend's boyfriend. And even though she's caught by Matthew, who breaks things off with her because he was not interested in that relationship drama, she decides that the best way to resolve this cheating scandal is to hide it, to bury her head in the sand, rather than face things heads on. And so She tries to get Camille and Gabrielle back together without telling the former the truth about the affair. Unfortunately, this blows up in her face when Camille discovers the truth and ends their friendship and her relationship with Gabrielle, who, in all of this, is still in love with Emily. And Emily, in turn, keeps being avoidant. And that is when I realized that that seems to be the lesson Emily's affair with Gabrielle is meant to teach her. It's how her character is meant to evolve and grow. Emily Cooper, from what we see in the show, is very conflict avoidant. Sure, she's perky, and the show tries hard to convince us that her seemingly basic ideas are avant garde, and thus she's the smartest person in our office. But she's only that aggressive in her professional life. When it comes to her personal life, however, she avoids conflict, likes to pretend that they aren't a thing and do not exist and would resolve themselves in time. And every single time that she's walked that path while still engaging in her emotional affair with Gabrielle for most of seasons 1 through 3, it's always come back to bite her in the ass. And the person who always has it all explode for the world to see is Camille, the woman whose boyfriend Emily keeps having that emotional affair with. Because we see that with Gabrielle, Emily learns to be open to trying new things, to discovering more about herself, with being honest about what she wants and what is driving her. Take, for example, her working through her unemployment. It took Gabrielle having the conversation with her about why she's so driven to work and keep working when life and living shouldn't be work. It tells her that she needs to actually live. That is a central core of Emily's affair with Gabrielle. It's what makes his words to Emily resonate so deeply in season 3 because she's committed emotionally to him and listens to him. He sees her and notices her in a way others don't. And she leans into what he has to say in a way that she doesn't with other people. Because what Gabrielle told her was what Mindy and Alfie had been telling her for most of the start of the season. She only hears it when it comes from Gabrielle. It helps her slow down. It helps her take in life in its beauty and its entirety. It helps her savor it, which is fitting because, he's a chef. However, like I said, that isn't all the lesson Emily is meant to learn from her affair with Gabrielle. She also needs to learn how to stand up for herself, stop avoiding conflict, and confront things heads on. I honestly do think that it is when she does so on her own terms and actually means it, not like the half hearted way she did in season 1 after they retrieved the watch from Brooklyn Clark's hotel room. Because sure, she said she wanted 100% of Gabrielle and wouldn't settle for less. But she has been settling for less. And until she finally decides to follow through on that and walk away, all she would have is that affair with Gabrielle, not a real relationship with him. Which is funny when you look at it. The only way Emily Cooper can get more out of her affair is to ask for more and walk away from the affair. And I know you're probably confused about what I mean by Emily not having a real relationship with Gabrielle when in season 4 they are definitely together. And to that I say, let's look at Camille and her affairs and why that brief trailer of part 2 where we meet Marcello makes sense. Because Emily Cooper is still the other woman in the relationship between Camille and Gabrielle. Now, Camille de la Lys has been quite the interesting character in Emily in Paris. Like I stated earlier in the video, when we meet her, she's funny and smart and charming and sweet and so incredibly kind. And the show rewards her for her many good qualities by having her boyfriend cheat on her with a new friend. And for those who are all like, well, Emily and Gabrielle didn't technically have sex until after E and Camille sort of broke up, I point out that when you start bringing in technicalities and talking of sort ofs, then we know that the entire conversation is a reach at that point. The two of them might not have had sex until the sort of breakup, not really breakup. That reminds me of how things played out for Rory and Logan Unsberger. But we know that Emily and Gabrielle were emotionally cheating long before they were physical. And so her feeling betrayed was understandable. And from what I could tell, the internet was okay with her rage as well. Up until season 3, when she meets Sophia, the Greek artist, who loves smart French women with exquisite taste and begins her affair with her. And then the conversations turned to how Camille technically became what she resented and hated Emily and Gabrielle for, i.e., a cheater. But remember, I did say that Emily in Paris as a show isn't against affairs. Matter of fact, it uses these affairs to basically push the characters to grow in a certain way. And although your knee jerk reaction might be, Noria, Camille didn't grow, one would say she most likely regressed. I would instead like to point out some things for you to consider. Let's start with the elephant in the room. What is often the reaction of a person who was cheated on? In the paper, What is Infidelity? A vignette study on norms and attitudes towards infidelity, Christiane Bozoyan and Claudia Schmedeberg state that infidelity may not only have a destructive impact on the relationship, which may lead to separation or divorce, but may negatively affect the partner's overall emotional well being, leading to enhanced depressive symptoms and lowered self esteem. And I think we saw that with Camille. We saw how she spiraled when she and Gabrielle were on a break after she realized that he didn't choose to stay in Paris for her and didn't even factor her in the equation to let her know that he was staying. And so we can only imagine the betrayal she would have felt at that discovery that her boyfriend had sex with her friend and that it wasn't just sex. He legit gave her friend a pan that he was loath to let Camille even touch. Something that was so precious to him was given to another woman while she was mourning the loss of a relationship. And to make matters worse, he chose to stay in Paris for her. That must have stung. And so I get the reason why Sophia's seduction of her worked so well. I was on Reddit and I saw someone make the comment that they couldn't understand why on earth, after Sophia whispered something into Camille's ears, she immediately caved to start her affair and symbolically went into the confessional art installation with a surprised Pikachu face. And I found that funny because it is clear that for the first time since she learned of Gabrielle and Emily's betrayal, Camille was spending time with someone who saw her, was attracted to her, was great for her ego, and contributed easily to the boost in her self esteem. Our affair with Sophia helped her find herself, helped her regain the confident, suave Camille that we met back in season 1 before all the drama hit. But I can't talk about Camille's affair with Sophia when she was with Gabrielle without talking about her now seemingly emotional affair with Gabrielle now that he's with Emily. Because, yes, I do think that what Gabrielle and Camille are doing is yet another iteration of an emotional affair. She's pregnant with his child, as far as he knows, and they are reminiscing about their past and their time together in the presence of both their partners. They are neighbors, with Camille living right across the hall from Gabrielle. It is a recipe for disaster and a match made in affair heaven. And forcing Camille to come to terms with the facets of herself that she's so far been unwilling to face. Because, yes, I do believe that Camille, as a character, likes to blame others wholly for situations that she's in that she doesn't feel ready and able to handle or take on by herself. She likes to consider herself pristine in these situations. And so, through this emotional affair with Gabrielle, she's learning how easy it is to be the other woman in a relationship and how easy it is to fall in love with her ex boyfriend, especially when he's giving you all the attention he has to give, whilst prioritizing your needs and wants in his life. Like I said, it is something she's presently learning, and by the end of the affair, she might learn to look a bit more kindly, just a bit more kindly at Emily. Although, of course, at that point, I do think that Gabrielle and Emily's relationship would have come to yet another conclusion and they would have parted ways this time around because Gabrielle is too emotionally committed to Camille, and we will have yet another season or two of the show annoying us with Gabrielle and Emily's would they, won't they relationship because Emily in Paris lives for giving us unnecessary drama. Instead of just having the two of them work things out or have Emily walk into the sunset with someone else, like, say, Alfie, for example. Ah, sweet Alfie, you will be missed. But as I was saying, Camille has, through her affairs, rediscovered herself and has found out that she's not as above board as she would have thought. She's just as human. And Gabrielle is also her light and port in the storm, which is why she's also reluctant to tell him the truth and would most likely be keeping the fact that what she got was a false positive and she's not really pregnant a secret from him, because letting him know would mean letting him go, which would in turn make her the other woman in Gabrielle and Emily's relationship. And that's not a lesson she's quite ready to learn just yet. But I'm pretty sure by the time that affair has run its course, it's a lesson she most certainly would. And finally, we have Emily's boss, Sylvie Gratto, who we see in the show as quite the number of affairs. She was having an affair with Antoine, who seemed to initially be expressing interest in Emily, which made Sylvie jealous, and she in turn did that unprofessional thing when she lashed out at another woman for catching the eye of her married boyfriend. However, with all the characters having their many affairs throughout this show, Sylvie is the only one that I found quite encapsulated Emily in Paris's stance of affairs are a necessary part of character development and growth and backstory. Sylvie, who is married to Laurent and has been separated from her husband for over 2 decades, but they didn't get a divorce, and he is as much encouraging of her having her own life as he is of himself following his own passions. And so she has her affairs with ease, gliding from one to the next with no shame, just living in the moment, taking what she can and needs from her partners, and moving on when her heart is broken. It's sad, really, because after she and Emily leave Brooklyn Clark's hotel room and Sylvie tells Emily that she's not really looking for happiness, as she doesn't believe that anyone would give 100% of themselves to their partner, I felt for her. It seems to be a lesson that life's taught her that her affairs have helped her see. Antoine is married and can't give 100% of himself to her. Plus, is married to a woman who knows about his affairs and doesn't seem to mind them, except that she wants to be the one to pick his mistresses, and she prefers Emily to Sylvie, who she considers more of a threat, because, like Antoine, she sees Sylvie as this strong, confident, sensual woman who knows herself and what she wants. And Antoine is attracted to that. Plus, Sylvie is way less malleable compared to Emily, who is much younger. With Antoine, however, Sylvie learned to walk away when even the scraps she was okay with getting aren't enough anymore. Antoine teaches her and us, the audience, that it is quite possible for you to become dissatisfied with a previous agreement if it is not meeting your needs anymore. Her affair with Eric, the photographer, helped her see herself through the eyes of someone much younger than her, but who still wanted her. She learned to not give half a flying fuck what other people's opinions were about her partner. She learned instead to embrace the snide insinuations that she's with someone young enough to be her son. And she rolled with it. Eric made her laugh, made her feel even more confident and sure in herself. And when her affair with him ended because he was suspicious of her refusal to divorce Laurent, we see her rekindle her relationship with Laurent, who she isn't having an affair with, is her husband, and she's gone back to source. Of course, we know that if their relationship reaches an impasse and Sylvie has to walk away again, she's going to move to yet another lover, and through it all will retain that unshakable sense of herself that her many years of living and all the affairs she's had have taught her. When I was first watching the early episodes of Emily in Paris, I was so outstanded at how easy and simple the show seemed to embrace cheating with its characters. And it wasn't until we got to episode 4 of season 4 that it finally clicked for me when Emily was making her pitch to that air company. Emily in Paris wants us to embrace the gray areas of life, where we see that life isn't black or white, and none of these characters are necessarily good or bad. Human beings are complex creatures with interests and who pursue them with a selfishness that is inherent to us all. And the only thing we have left after those experiences are the lessons we learned along the way. What do you think? Do you agree with any of the things I had to say? Do you disagree with them? Drop a comment if I've made you look at these characters or the show in a different or interesting way, or if I brought a new perspective in some shape or form. Let me know if you've watched Emily in Paris. Is it a guilty pleasure of yours, like it is for me? Are you looking forward to meeting Marcello and the drama that is going to bring, that is going to bring? Or if you're someone who doesn't have any interest in Emily in Paris, let me know in the comments as well. Share this video if you think others should hear what I have to say. All these interactions are incredibly supportive of my content and they do help my channel grow. Speaking of support, a huge thank you to my patrons who help me keep the lights on. If you'd like to become a patron, do check out the link in the description box. I make new videos 3 times a week. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. New videos drop at 5 p.m. EST. Whilst you wait for new content from me, do check out my latest video. It ends with us and its theme of control, if you haven't seen it yet. Until next time, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.